Hello, so today I'd like to do a bit of a longer breakdown gear video. It's sort of like a sequel to the gear that I was bringing on the GR10, but now that we've finished the GR10, we're currently at Mark and Nikki's house. They've just left and we've just finished. Haven't actually unpacked or cleaned anything in my bag yet, so this is exactly what I had in my bag when I finished the GR10, which was only 3 days ago, and since then we've just been making our way here slowly. It's going to be longer than the other videos, and it's sort of going to act as mini reviews on a couple of the things. I'll probably say a few words about the things we've reviewed in full as well, just to sort of summarise it all and give my thoughts on absolutely everything piece of gear I had. So, from the outside, first of all I'll talk about the clothing I had. So, the hat is one first thing, absolutely phenomenal. Really enjoyed the Tilly hat. It keeps the rain off, which is really important for glasses. It keeps the sun off, keeps my hair out of my eyes, and overall I just really enjoyed it. I'm sure most of the hats have worked as well, but this one is undamaged, untouched. I washed it regularly. I'd get it wet when we were walking and then put it on just to keep me cool, and overall really enjoyed the Tilly hat. My shirt, which is the only shirt I wore the entire time, which is just a like £5 Carrymore run shirt from Sports Direct that I had. I either walked Pennine Way with this shirt, wore the GR10 with this shirt, and it's still not really showing any serious signs of wear, so love the shirt. I wish it wasn't black. Knowing what I know now, I wish I'd bought a white one all those years ago, but for nostalgia's sake I think I'll keep walking it. This is probably the most major piece of gear we changed. So we set off with 2 pairs of underwear, zip-on, zip-off trousers and the sleeves, and on, I can't remember exactly what day it is, but on one of the days, I think it was the video Sick where it happened, we changed them out for some Lycra, and the Lycra has been brilliant. The Lycra looks pretty worn, but I think it's just like that first wear, you know, like when you start to wear something the first time and it all fluffs up a little bit. Just had a wash, so I'm sure it's smelling much better than it's ever smelled. This piece of Lycra has pocket at the back and pocket at the side. I'm definitely going to wear more Lycra in the future. Basically, the problem was we had so many pieces of gear to faff with, like faffing around with 2 pairs of pants and a pair of trousers meant, well, one, you was really sweaty all the time, like all your crotch and your balls and everything, because you just had so much material. And, you know, having 2 pairs of pants to keep dry, it was just so much hassle. Mistake I made was putting my lip solve in my Lycra's little pocket here, which melted, and I forgot to take it out when I washed it, and basically that's been destroyed, so I have to throw that away. That was really great, lip solve. In the back of my Lycra, another mistake, I kept this little knife, which seemed like a great idea, but it has rusted a little bit because of all the sweat that was there. But after being through the washing machine, it seems to have got back pretty good. So love the Lycra, much simpler, one piece of gear, you can wash in it, you can shower in it, it dries really fast, or fairly fast, love it. I will definitely not walk with underwear, just Lycra from now on, unless it's really cold. The Swiss Army knife thing, brilliant, but in the future I think I'm going to need more knife. I love this thing, it's 22 grams I think, off the top of my head. Like, as a piece of nail equipment, it's fantastic. You know, you cut your fingernails with it, and you've got a little file on it, and we started removing ticks with these little tweezers. So it does all of those sorts of bits and bobs great. And the knife's great for opening things, but we ended up processing wood twice. I ended up whittling some wooden spoons, which was really good fun. And just in general, I'm a knifey person, and I think I want to have more knife in the future. So I think I'm going to move away from this. It was great, but I think what I will end up doing is purchasing some little tiny, like the lightest weight scissors I can, cutting my nails with, and a really small pair of, probably just taking these tweezers with me, and then taking an actual knife. I think it's overall going to be heavier. We might look into making our own knives in the future, but I think I need more knife, basically. I couldn't spread any food with it as well, which was a bit of a bummer. So the solar panel. These were... Normally I would have the phone attached to the solar panel in the back pocket pretty much all the time, in a side pocket all the time, but Finney's currently using the phone to take this video, so I don't have the phone here. This worked brilliantly, really loved it. It was £10, weighed 66 grams, worked phenomenally. You know, like, I could sit down using the phone with this in direct sunlight and charge it up. I think only on one occasion in the whole walk did we actually come near to running out of battery. It was because we had like 2 days of not very much sun and a lot of phone use. We were taking videos all the time, we were listening to audiobooks every evening. This kept it going the whole time. I mean, obviously it's a bit walk specific, but in the Pyrenees, solar panels are superb. Obviously cable for the phone, Originally, I thought I could do with a shorter cable, but once I started using the solar panel and everything, this was the right appropriate length cable. That's good. One water bottle, the 850ml water bottle, hardly used it when we were walking. So when we were walking, we had two plastic smart water bottles, 600ml, strapped to my chest. That was pretty much all I used when we were actually walking. So that was 1.2 litres, which was plenty of water with the filter. But we had this as well if we were going to trek some water to camp. So if there was going to be no water at camp, fill up the 800 as well. So we had 2 litres, and that would do me for cooking and drinking that evening, and then I have the other 2 bottles just for the next day and getting to camp. So appropriate amount of water, which was good. Meths cooker was absolutely fantastic. This much meths is an insane amount of meths. So I think day 22 was the first day I refilled my meths, and I think it's about 550ml, lasted me 22 days, which is phenomenal. And I filled up half a litre on day 22, and that did me to the end of the walk. We just bought some more meths on day 42. Basically, at the end of the walk, we bought some more meths, just because we were going to be moving around a bit after the walk, and we wanted loads of extra meths. Having your tent and your in the back, so rear mesh pockets are made. I'll talk about the bag in detail in a minute, but I think it's brilliant to have your bag and your stakes on the outside of your backpack accessible. 2 reasons. Reason number 1, if you rock up and it's raining, you don't have to open your bag up. Your bag's already going to be soaked. You're going to be soaked. Put the bag down, whip the 2 things out, and set them up. And they've been great. The tent stakes, which we have reviewed in detail, I'll just give a quick overview. I took 6 groundhogs. I ended up breaking the lightweight flash peg, which I found. On the second to last or third to last night, we had the worst ground we had ever had. And my tent pegs took an absolute abuse from it. That was the night I snapped my flash peg. They were all a little bit snagged at the ends and bashed at the top, but overall they stood up absolutely phenomenally. I really can't say enough good things about them. This bent. I was gobsmacked that I bent. This is very, very slightly curved. It's still perfectly functional. Gobsmacked I bent it. I'm almost proud that I bent it. But yeah, I'm going to be downsizing my pegs to either the lightweight flash pegs or the groundhog minis, or maybe a combination of both, just because this match peg is overkill. Saying that, we did struggle in sandy environments to pitch these, which a smaller peg would have been even worse, and we basically had to give up camping when we tried to travel along the west coast of France, because basically we couldn't camp near the beach, which is what we wanted to do. Which is a shame. 6mm Design Lunar Solo, full review of this as well. Brilliant tent. I think that I will probably stick with this for another walk or 2, because it's a great tent. It did take some wear, so there was a small hole which didn't get any bigger in the mesh, and the plastic hook that holds the beak down has failed, but I replaced that with a piece of string, which is less functional, but it just keeps you so sheltered. You really have to pitch it right. If you pitch it high, you're going to have no fun in a storm, and if you pitch it low, you'll be so happy, it'll be amazing. And the opposite way around in the sun if it's too hot. Condensation is an issue, but I think it's an issue with all single skin shelters. We actually had 3 days straight of no condensation, which was brilliant at the very end of the walk, and that was just because it was so dry. So I think it's just totally environmentally dependent. If it's if you're by a river and it's warm, you're going to get condensation no matter what, no matter how high you pitch it. But love the tent. I think in the long term, I'm planning to switch to a shaped tarp and bivvy, which I'll probably make, and I will probably shape it very, very similar to this tent, because I love it. It keeps the storms out so much. My flip-flops, which I hacked up a little bit, did actually end up perforating on the back heel. But honestly, I think having these, although it was brilliant, when I transition to not wearing boots anymore, I'm going to ditch these for weight, and because the other thing is that you end up putting these on and then going and doing things you shouldn't be doing in flip-flops, like going and collecting wood in a pair of flip-flops was more unpleasant than just going barefoot. They're pretty janky flip-flops, but they survived the walk and they were great. But I think I'll transition away when I go to regular walking shoes. I'll get rid of them. This is a fun little thing. Titanium Spork, great, but I preferred Finley's style of Spork, the one that's just a single bit with like a spork spoon hybrid on the end rather than double-ended. The double-ended was painful, so I wouldn't recommend that. This little plastic cover I made, or X-Pack cover for it, worked out really well. I would need a longer handled one if I was buying again. I don't think I will buy another titanium spork in the future, but I'm looking into making some ones out of bamboo. There's a bunch of bamboo at Mark's house, so we're going to make some more. This one is a little prototype I made with some bamboo we found, and going to look into making bamboo sporks, which will be exciting, and with a longer handle. You see how much longer this one is? Like, this was as big as the piece of bamboo was, so I'd like one even longer, and these are going to be lighter, so. But it did work well for one I had, just not ideally. I preferred Finstar. The filter bag, great. The filter worked the whole time. I actually have realised that I have got a tiny little perforation. Not enough to actually spit water out, but I'm pretty sure there's a little perforation near one of these corner holes. Thus far, the flow rate I'm still really happy with. It's funny because I read a Reddit post the other day about people saying that these things, after 400 miles, just stopped filtering well. But thus far, I've talked about it in a full review, and it's still going really strong, and I still really like it. I would consider replacing the bag if I was doing a really big through hike, but for what I'm going to be doing in the future, probably just stick with this one, even though it's only a tiny bit broken. But it literally, it's a pin. Like, you wouldn't. It's taken me like 6 days to really be sure that it's got a hole in it, so it's not that bad. Poo kit worked out really well. I ended up only using half a tube of hand sanitizer on the whole walk, which is great. I don't even think it was fully full in the first place. That's everything there, everything in there. So we get into the bag. This is how full my bag is when it's got nothing else in it. So you can see, like, I don't have a lot of gear in here. In fact, there's more gear than there should be in here because I've got things like socks in here. So, bandana. I'm not sure if I had this on the original list, but I don't think I did. So originally I was planning to take a buff, and then I decided to throw in a bandana, and I sent home the buff. The buff was just nowhere near as good as a bandana. They both weigh about the same. Take a bandana does a million things. I use it for drying myself, drying the inside of my tent, and sometimes I wear it around my wrist. So overall, I'll always throw in a bandana. Maybe if I can find a lighter fabric, maybe if I find like a towel or something that's even lighter than a bandana, but for now, it's just always nice to have a square of material for drying things. That doesn't matter if it gets a bit dirty. That's top marks for the bandana. Injinji socks. So I have two pairs. Bear with me while I struggle to find the other pair. Oh, there it is, look. Injinji socks. So I didn't get any blisters on this entire walk, which I think is phenomenal. I got blisters in the past on every walk I've been on. This one I had none. I've had previously issues with my toes. These are toe socks. First time I wore them, I had no blisters. So I'm not going to say it was because of some magical socks, but I think the socks definitely helped a lot. These ones are beautiful because they've been washed. The other ones are so sweaty that it's awful. I basically gave up washing them because it was a hassle to wash, and it only lasted a day before they were like in death mode again. Wear-wise, these ones are in perfect condition. This one pair has got a very small hole developed on the big toe. Now, I would like thinner socks than these, ideally in the future, but I'm just going to wear these until I wear them out to the point of irreplaceable, until they basically stop working. But in the future, yeah, I think I would buy Injinji socks again if they make a lighter weight than this. If not, I'll probably try make these. I think these are the run weight ones. I think they're the lightest they make, but if they do make lighter, I will try them out in the future. If not, I will just buy some super lightweight socks, because I personally think that it's like half the socks, but mostly my feet have just toughened up, and I could probably get away with lighter socks. The toes are a bit of a faff to get your feet into, but it's not really actual hard work. It's just a bit of effort. Raincoat did very admirably. It did brilliantly. Stinks though, because it's been in all my socks. Don't know what I'm going to do. I guess I'll try and wash it. This is really old raincoat now. Held up perfectly. I probably wore it more as an insulating garment than an actual raincoat, because I didn't care about getting wet, because you dry. I just cared about being... So basically I only wore it when it was raining and cold. I think I'm going to switch to a Frog Togs just because they're so light and so cheap, and I'll buy one for the next walk. But this coat has had a great life, and I really enjoyed it. Not much change inside my ditty bag, so I'll spare you the hassle of getting it all in and out. I'll just bring out anything I thought was interesting. I threw in a pair of headphones that I don't think I put on my original gear list. so that we could listen to audiobooks. That was brilliant. Everything else stayed pretty much the same. I'd like to shout out to my custom 4-gram wallet. This thing was amazing. I'm probably going to make a whole bunch of these when I get back, just out of the Tyvek we have lying around, because it's hardly shown anywhere. And 4 grams, like, that's just a cool thing. I like it a lot. Also, this charging block was overkill in the end because Finley's phone broke. I mean, it was appropriate when we had Finn's phone, but after it broke, I only needed a single slot charging cable, so I'll downsize to a smaller one if I'm going solo / in the future. I didn't really use my med kit at all, so I'm going to downsize that a lot. And I didn't really use my repair kit, so I'm going to have a look in there. Apparently there's a whole bunch of instructions in other languages in the Thermarest repair kit, so I'll get rid of that, hopefully lose a bit of weight there. This muslin face cloth was brilliant. I use this for washing myself, so this is like my clean washing cloth. And whenever there was a river or a water source, I would basically go in, wash this all, get it all wet, and wash my body with it. And going to bed without washing myself was unpleasant. But if you gave yourself a wash down before bed, it was just, you just slept so much better because you didn't have like that sticky feeling against the quilt. You didn't have the sticky feeling against the ground. Yeah, keep yourself clean. Have a little cloth. This one's great, and I'll keep using it into the breaks. Also, ideally, I'd like to switch this to a Cuban bag. I'm going to get some Cuban and make some stuff sacks. Trekking guide, brilliant, but the GR10 is phenomenally waymarked. If you're going to do the GR10, buy this guide, read the whole thing, transfer all of the information in it onto your phone's GPS maps, and then leave the guide at home, because this was 300 grams I didn't need. Had I have spent a day putting all the information that was on this onto my phone, I used the Gaia GPS app, which I didn't even pay for, so I was just like loading the maps beforehand. I would just pay for a 2-month subscription or whatever it is, get all the maps on it, and yeah. No more books, paper maps in the future for me. On a well-waymarked trail, you don't need them. Possibly if I was going like on a proper trail, like on an unwaymarked trail, I would bring paper maps, but on a waymarked trail, I'm just going to bring phone maps in the future. So all of that stuff that I just pulled out was just like loose in the top of my bag most of the time, so that wasn't in a separate waterproofing layer. It was just waterproofed by my bag, and it all stayed pretty much perfectly dry throughout the whole trip. Now we go into the pack liner thing. I'm a total convert to pack lining. I've always in the past had like a bag cover. Pack lining is way better. Just give it a try. This is like a bin bag, I think, or a trash compactor bag. It's like an American tough bin bag. Worked brilliantly. All of my stuff stayed bone dry. I mean, my bag's fairly waterproof as it is. I consider it 99% waterproof. Like a tiny bit of water does seep through, but the stuff in this bag was bone dry. So much easier than a pack liner. You don't have to take it on and off all the time. Just put everything in it and it stays dry, which is what I wanted. So this was the down £40 down jacket from Decathlon, the men's full down, size medium. Also stinks, but it was brilliant. It's not actually that warm. Like there was quite a lot of evenings where it would like be the evening, and I would just put this on just against my skin, just to keep the flies off, and I wasn't like properly sweating. I was never cold on the walk. Actually, no. Some evenings I would put this on and I would still not be quite warm enough. But for what it is, for how much it costs, for the fill power of the down inside it, I think it's 800 fill power, and the fact that I didn't have to worry about it because it wasn't an expensive down jacket, is great. I think I'll just keep using it because for the cost, compressibility, like it stuffs into basically nothing. It's down. Enjoyed it a lot. Not as good as like a super expensive down jacket, but not as expensive as a super expensive down jacket. Fleece trousers. Now these are the bit of gear that I ummed and over the most. Finn convinced me to bring them, and this is what enabled our transition to Lycra all the time. Basically in the evenings I would walk around in my Lycra for a bit until the sweat had dried. Then I would switch over to these things. So these are one of my camp and sleeping trousers, and they were brilliant. They keep you warmer in camp. I slept in them. I haven't washed them the entire time, and they absolutely reek. But I'm going to get these straight in the washing machine. And these were like £5 from Decathlon, so these are great value. I probably would go to lighter weight ones. Like I didn't really need the insulation, so I'll probably like look to try and pick up some like more tight-fitting-y, cycling-y ones with a bit less fleece on them because I didn't need the insulation. but having a pair of camp trousers and a pair of lycra is a great combination, and it's what I'm going to stick with. Cook pot, brilliant. Toke 750ml, definitely wouldn't want any smaller, but this was absolutely perfect. It could cook 2 pot noodles in it, you could cook 2 couscous and a bunch of tuna in it. Really enjoyed it. I'm not going to go into it in detail because I think I'm going to make a new cooking system or make some modifications to this cooking system when I get back home to England and upload like a detailed ultralight cook kit video about the new cook kit when I finished it. But you know, make your own alcohol stove because it's great. Alcohol is so easy to cook with. I mean, you have to be a bit patient. It takes longer than gas, but other than that, it's brilliant. Some of this is a little bit damp actually because it rained on us last night. We camped we just camped straight on the ground without our tents, and we all got rained on. So some of this is damp at the moment. This was phenomenal. It's a Thermarest Neo Air X Lite. Use it every single day. I had no issues with it, no deflation. The screw here is a bit of a faff, I would say. Sometimes it's difficult to unscrew and spins on its axis, but I had no deflation at night. Finn had a different experience with his one exploded and Thermarest sent us a new one, which is wonderful of them. But I loved having a full, like for me, full comforts in a gear list would mean having an air pack because I slept so well on it. You know, I could sleep on a piece of foam, but the fact that this just goes into your bag, you don't have any foam strapped to the outside, and you sleep, it's just so comfortable. I'm going to carry one, I think, forever. I'm not going to faff around with half length yet. Full length, mine's just a regular size, but for me, I was apprehensive to begin with that it was too narrow and too short, but it was the perfect size. I mean, I could sleep on top of it wonderfully, and I can't rave enough about it. It is my most niggly piece of gear because like I'm always worried that I'm going to explode it. I'm always a bit worried thinking, you know, it's going to break, it's going to explode, it's going to pop, you know, but it didn't, and it was super comfortable. Yeah, it made my experience a lot better. Last thing was our Windhard Tiny Quilt, which we have a full review about. So I will just say that for what it is, it was brilliant. This one's a little bit damp at the moment because it got rained on last night and the down is not lofting properly now. Oh my god, that's actually really bad. Jesus Christ. Yeah, it got all wet last night basically when it rained on us. But watch the proper video about it because it looked much nicer when it was all puffed up with down. But I'm going to just keep using this quilt. It was so good. I'm not going to rush into buying a Cumulus quilt or a Katabatic quilt because that one worked for me so well. So just going to keep using it. Pack liner. Now, possibly, I'll talk about the bag now. So I made this backpack. It's made out of X21 fabric, so it is like the X21, but it has no taffeta backing layer, meaning the inside is like all shiny. I think that the backpack is the most important piece of kit when you're backpacking. Maybe I'm biased because that's the bit of kit I paid, but it's the backpacking gear. Other than your shoes, I would say this is probably the most important because you wear this all day, every day. It needs to be accessible. So things I loved about it. The Palante style bottom pocket. For the first 4 days, I didn't make use of it. It's very easy to just be like, oh, it's a useless feature. But then I started deliberately going out of my way to buy food to put in it, and it was phenomenal. So basically buying packs of M&Ms, packs of Mars bars, having your snacks in this thing. When our bags are so light that you just don't want to take them off. It's not like when I used to have a traditional heavyweight bag, I'd be like desperate to just swing it off onto the ground for a few hours. We'd stop. We'd just sit down with our backpacks on, pull out some snacks out of our bag and just eat them, and this just made that so easy. It wasn't a problem like the snacks getting crushed because they are M&Ms. I will always include. I want to include one on the next bag. I thought it was great, and I mean I wouldn't say it was like a killer feature that I would not buy a bag because it didn't have. Because there are not many bags that have this on, but I really enjoyed it. The rear mesh pocket. It's a pretty standard feature on backpacks nowadays. Loved it. My one didn't even get that extended. Definitely will include one in the future. Side pockets and everything. I made these 3D square bowl, so they're not just like a pleated piece of fabric. They've got some dimensionality to them. And although it looks a bit boxy, having that volume in them was really nice. Like I could fit a lot of stuff in there. I could fit an 850ml plus a 600ml bottle, plus I could shove the bottoms of my poles in, plus I could shove my phone in, so there was a lot of depth in those and I really enjoyed that. These zigzag side bits, I'm not going to have the bottom bits anymore, that is all useless, I'm just going to stick with this top bit. Really it was for drying things on and for hooking my poles onto, so this bit at the bottom is faff, you don't need. Roll top is a great cloak, so I have absolutely nothing going on the top apart from, like, there's no buckles, no buttons, it's just a simple turned over top, and it was brilliant. You don't need any buckles or buttons or anything. If you're making your own bag, don't include them, it's just a waste. All you do, I've wasted mass, that is, you just fold over the top like this, roll it down, you get a perfect seal, it keeps all the rain out, and it's easier. It's easier than having buttons to faff with. Over the top strap, really enjoyed as well. This little buckle is wicked. Clip it onto, roll up, clip it onto there. Something I started doing is I stopped using the haul loop. So I sewed this into, like, carry the bag around with, and I realised it was easier to just grab this loop here. So I won't include a haul loop in the future. I'll just grab this one. It's fairly well reinforced here. I was a little bit worried about it, but on the next one I'll reinforce it properly so it will be designed to be used as a haul loop. And that's great. The shoulder straps I made worked really well. It was super comfortable. Overall, I'm just in love with frameless backpacks. My advice on frameless backpacks would be, if you have an ultralight loadout, sub 10 pounds, go frameless, because it's brilliant. However, I would not recommend going hip beltless. I would recommend a webbing hip belt, which is all you need. You don't need a padded hip belt, unless you are sub 7 pounds, or carrying only very short food carries. Because my backpack base load, I think, was about 8.5 pounds once I had sent all the stuff home. And on the 5-day food carries, I didn't wear the hip belt at all. I think I wore it once on the whole trip, and once at the end of the trip when I carried 7 kilos of juice to make rum cocktails with Mark and Nikki last night. I didn't use the hip belt, but when we did a 5-day food carry, I needed that hip belt just for the first day to take the weight off my shoulders. Unless you're doing short food carries or have a sub 7 pound base weight, strap on a webbing hip belt. Saying that, on my next backpack, I'm not going to attach a hip belt. I'm convinced I think I'm going to try and aim to get myself like sub 7, or at least in the 7 pound base weight ballpark, and I'm just going to scrap the hip belt because I hardly wore it this walk at all. Fabric wise, X21 is a brilliant fabric. Like, this bag, apart from the fact that it stinks and there's like sweat stains all over it, is pretty much as good as day one when I made it. There's pretty much no wear on the back panel. There's a little bit, there's no wear on the actual shoulder straps themselves, but where I've sewed it into the backpack, there's some little hairs coming off like the V bits of the X bracing or whatever, so that needs a little bit of attention. But X21 is an absolute bomb fabric. I was really surprised. The lycra has worn a little bit here where it touches my bum, but I think that was before I switched to lycra. I had like some big like bits on the backs of my trousers that are braided against it. That sort of stopped happening. I don't know whether that will happen again. I wouldn't go with any heavier duty lycra. I think I'll just use the same lycra because I have a bunch of it left over for the next backpack. But yeah, X21, brilliant fabric. Overkill fabric. I would use it for inside of shoulder straps, back panel, bottom. I wouldn't use it for everywhere else again, just because it's so heavy duty. The waterproofing of the bag stayed on brilliantly along all the sides, but on the very most bottom of the backpack, along this section here, one of those strips of seam taping fell off. I don't know whether I didn't leave quite enough seam tape on it or something, but one of those failed a little bit, and in the very corners they failed a little bit. So it's not 100% waterproof anymore. It's still fairly airtight, and overall I just really, really love the bag. I would really recommend having a go at making a backpack, because you can make the perfect backpack for you. Like this bag, volume-wise, which I think is about, I might have these numbers wrong, I think it's about 25 litres up to the shoulder straps, and then up to 30 litres at the very, very top of the roll top, but you don't quite get that when you start rolling it down. It was perfect for my gear, and perfect if you were doing like a really volume conscious food carry, like if you were buying tortillas. But on one occasion we ended up buying, like we were in a shop where we just couldn't buy the food we wanted, we had to buy bread and really high volume items, and I needed a little bit more volume for that. So I think I'll make the next one a little bit bigger and trapezium shaped, so that you can fill it up with really high voluminous food and you don't have to worry about buying low volume food. But for my actual gear, it was perfect. So yeah, I can't believe how well it stood up. Like look how good it's still looking. It's just crazy. I'm totally sold on frameless bags, making bags. I'm going to make more bags, and I'm looking forward to it. Poles, we have a full review up about as well. What can I say? Take poles, the tips will break. I think I've just decided, after talking to everyone else that I met, tips break. I'm going to have a go at repairing these poles, and maybe I'll make a video about it if I do. Maybe I won't. But in general, take some poles, they're brilliant. They reduce the strain on your knees, and they just make walking easier. So I believe that is all of the gear. Thank you for watching.